Hey, it's TDA and welcome to episode 3 of this first look at the Astro Colony beta. And today's goal is very simple. We are going to automate the hell out of our entire base. And in order to do that, we are going to need some more technology, of course. So what are we going to pick up? We are going to pick up construction, which will allow us to build the constructor, which is a very useful item that will allow us to produce or at least automate the production of a few more items. We will also be getting access to the iron rods, so that is something we'll need to construct a few other things. We are going to pick up mining, which allows us to construct a miner that will make use of mining drones, but that's something for the next episode. We are also going to pick up the auto asteroid catching, which is very vital because so far all our asteroid catching is being done by hand, so we want to automate that, which is going to be awesome. Now, in order to actually automate the rest of our base, we are going to pick up a robotics, which, well, for now, the robotics itself isn't going to be all that useful, but we do want access to the base warehouse as well as the splitter. And the splitter will solve one of the issues we had at the end of the last episode, where we had some issues with getting coal to two different coal facilities. So yeah, but we also need the base warehouse, and base warehouse is awesome because you can store your resources and use them directly when constructing, as the tooltip says. So that basically means we just put stuff in the warehouse and then we can use it wherever we are and we don't have to carry it around with us. So awesome. And apparently I don't have enough research for that, so I need a little bit more of each. So I'll fix that and then we can get to it. Okay, I did them with more research and now we have the automation available. So that means not only do we have access to the splitter, but also to the warehouse. Now, in order to actually make the most use of that, we are going to need some iron rods, and you make those in the smelter for some reason. So apparently we can turn the iron bars into iron plates and then the iron plates back into rods. Not entirely sure about the logic behind that, but anyway, that is how it works. Now, in order to make some of those, we are going to have to put in some of these plates. And as you can see now, we are getting some rods. Now, we don't really have to put in all the plates. By the way, if you right click on an item, you can see what it's made from, what it's used for, which buildings does it needs, etc. And actually what you can build with it. Quite useful in case you are wondering what to do with it. I just always forget that left clicking is actually what makes it go into your inventory. Anyway, so now we have a couple of iron rods and we have a lot of other stuff in our inventory as well. So now what we can do is we are simply going to walk over to our current catchers. We are going to delete all of them. I think I should have enough materials for 3 of them by now. We are going to look up the recipe in the overview. So this is the auto asteroid catcher. It's basically a red version of the other one. And we are going to put it exactly in the same place as we had the other ones before. And that is 3. Oh, I actually don't have enough bars on me. That's interesting. So let's see. Well, anyway, that will sort itself out in a moment because, as you can see, we are now automatically catching asteroids. How awesome is that? It is grabbing them from wherever they are in reach, and it should be outputting. There we go. It is now automatically outputting stuff on the belts, and that means that we will automatically transfer them to the smelter, as well as the other facilities, and now we have on autopilot our production up and running. Now, I'll take a few moments to build one more of these, and then we'll continue on to the next part of our automation. Okay, so now we have 3 of those things catching asteroids. We have a pretty nice amount of resources coming in. So now we are going to fix the base issue with our power, so at least we have that automated. In order to do so, we are going to put in a few of these conveyor belts. Probably something like this. Doesn't really matter. We can put it in like this. And that means that right now we have a conveyor belt, but nothing will actually reach that belt. However, we are going to put in a splitter. And by putting in a splitter and making sure we have the arrows on the splitter, as you can see, it has arrows on it pointing in different directions. Put it like this, then any materials coming in from this belt over here will be split into 3 directions. Well, there's no conveyor belt on this side, so this won't actually do anything, but it should push half of it onwards on this conveyor belt, and then that will go in here. So basically, let's see if that actually works. You can see the first one passed through this, and we'll now continue on to this. So now we have 2 facilities being supplied with coal. There's a second piece incoming, so I assume that will be going into the other one. Let's see if that actually works. Yeah, there it goes. I would say QED for those that did some math, because we just proved that our concept is working. All right, now that's a little bit of automation. We automated the catching, we made it the power. Now we want to automate the rest of our smelting. Of course, we already have a smelter over there that's providing us with a lot of base materials. As you can see, there's a lot of iron and copper bars in there, so that's really nice. I actually took out the storage because we will be replacing this now, or at least very soon. We're leaving it in there for as long as we don't have the alternative up and running. What we're going to do is we are going to place a smelter, I think, just over here in this corner. Maybe we'll leave a little bit more room, something like this. Yeah, that looks good. And then what we are going to do, we are obviously going to need to power that. We'll do that in a moment. But what we are also going to do is we are going to build a new device. And that device is not the constructor, actually. Is it? Yeah, sorry, it is the constructor. Sorry, confused there for a moment. And let's place that down. And we are going to place that down over here. Now this is a really big facility. But we should be able to fit it in the corner over here. There we go. Once again, we are going to need to power this, but this facility will allow us to make iron plates, copper plates, and gold plates. And those three items are very useful. Why? Because they will allow us to make these things at a much cheaper rate than we can do it ourselves. So let's take the iron plates. As you can see, we get 2 plates for each iron bar, and we need only 4 seconds to do so. If you compare that to the hand recipe once again, you will see that we get 1 for 1, and it actually takes twice the amount of time. So we get twice the amount of materials for half the time, which is quite convenient. Now, of course, that does mean that we are going to need some belts for that. So I actually prefer putting in the belts before we actually activate the facilities, just to make sure that there's not anything getting stuck on our belts that isn't supposed to be there. And what we're going to do is we are going to bring this up here. And that needs to be rotated, so let's rotate that. There we go. And then let's make sure this is actually correct. We are actually going to do it like this. And we need to delete this and delete that. Because I want that splitter to be in here and then just put it on this belt in this direction. Sometimes it can be a little bit hard to see where the arrows are pointing, but this should work. And then we are going to take a splitter and take a logic block and then a splitter. There we go. And then we are going to put it in like this. What will that do? Well, this is going to be producing all the 3 different types of bars. Then we are going to put half the bars into this, and that half of those bars are going to be producing plates. Those plates are going to come out in this direction, and in order to make use of that, what we're going to do is we want to place one of these storage facilities over here in order to just store all of those up. However, that won't actually work at the moment because we don't actually have those copper plates. So let me power this up and let's get that going. Okay, now what we want to do is we are going to flip this one around. We are going to rotate that. Which way is it turning now? I can't really see. Oh, it's actually turning the wrong way. So we're now going to transport everything in there, which includes the ice, which is not supposed to go in there, but we can fix that with a pusher. So we are going to put that in. We are going to specify that this should be pushing the ice onwards, but everything else should be going straight into there. So as you can see now, the other materials are going in there, but the ice should go on. That also means that we can pretty much remove this one. And then we do need to turn this one with one little hop, and then we can take out all of this because we don't no longer need it because we are doing our smelting over there. Now the reason I actually am moving this is because it doesn't really make sense to be smelting in two different places for our purposes right now. So that means that we are now doing that, doing that, doing that. And as you can see, the bars are going on. We actually have some ice on the belt over here, which we'll be able to fix in a moment. But for now, that means we are now in here, and now we are mass producing iron plates as well as gold plates. Now actually all our materials will be going in here right now, which is not necessarily what we want. So we are going to focus on making ourselves some storage. I'm actually not sure where the storage units are. Oh, over here. We are going to need some copper plates for that. So do we have any copper plates yet? Almost. They're incoming right now. There we go. Let's pick those up. Let's pick the other plates up while we're at it. And then we are going to craft one of those. So let's see, where is it in the menu? It's over here. And then this seems to be a pretty logical place to place that down. Let's make sure. Do we want to leave some room or should we make it compact? I think it's probably best to leave ourselves some room. Do we need to power this up? I am actually not sure. I don't think so. Nope, we don't. So that means that we can suffice by putting a belt like this. And now all the crafted materials will go in our warehouse. Now, of course, we also want to make sure the remainder of our materials that we are not using are going in there as well. Hopefully I'll have enough of these, and I think I do. So this is really ideal because now we are catching a lot of asteroids. We are collecting all of that in our smelter. The smelter is making bars of all three different types. Half of those bars are being now transformed into copper plates or plates of all three kinds. Those plates are moving on to the warehouse as well as the other half of the bars. So now we have a warehouse where we'll be collecting, well, apparently some ice, so I can take that out. But we have iron bars, well, basically all the bars and all the plates will be collected in this warehouse. So now we have successfully completed our mission of basically optimizing the most of the facilities that we've had so far, actually including the new one as well. We also still have our automated facility over here with the water. Now, what we could actually also do is, well, clean up some of these connections, of course. We also kind of want to automate our science. However, I really like the fact that we have pretty much an infinite amount of construction materials over here. So we are actually going to set up a second line of asteroid catchers and make a similar setup as we have here, but with a slightly different purpose. So I now have a new row of catchers that are not actually hooked up to anything yet. We'll do that in a moment. I put the science facility over here in the corner. It's not hooked up to the automated process because I don't want to waste a lot of bars going into this while we might not actually need the research. I did put a lot of bars in it just so it's actually producing some research. But for now that will be just fine like it is. We don't need to automate that because we don't need that much science, honestly. Okay. What are we going to do? Well, we are going to set up a facility that's similar to what we've just built, but we're going to go do it slightly different. So first of all, we are going to put down some devices. We are going to put down another constructor. We are going to place it down something like... oh, that doesn't fit. Well, we can do it over here. That is going to be making those iron plates and other plates. And then we are going to pick up a new research, and that is going to be the manufacturer, which is over here. So we can make the manufacturer. It's manufacturing, and then that allows us to create the manufacturer. That is this one. And it's a nice little building that we can put down, for example, over here. I'm actually going to put it over here so that... actually... Are we going to put it down over here? Let's put it down like this. I think this makes a little bit more sense. So we have the outputs on the right side. Now, what we also need to do is put down a smelter, because we need, of course, to supply this with a lot of materials. Let's align that something like this. That will be fine. And then we're going to need another smelter, which is going to be over... Let's make sure it's aligned to the other one. over here, I believe. So it's this line. Yes, this is the perfect location. And then what we're going to do, so bear with me here for a moment. We are going to make the most out of our belts. We are going to have a lot of materials coming in from this direction. There we go. And then we go around the corner like this, and we're going to go all the way through like this. And we will need to flip this one around. There we go. Now it's going in. And actually we are going to flip this one around as well. So it's going in. The only thing we want to continue on this belt, and I will need a logic block for that, specifically a pusher. We want this to push on all the coal. So that means that the coal is going to continue on this belt and then go right in here. Now that means that we can set this recipe to something that actually uses coal, and also we'll be using iron plates. Now in order to get the iron plates over here, what we're going to do is we are going to take this one and have this belt go down here. And of course we also need some of the plates to go in the facility to make some wires. So in order to get that to do what we want to do, we are once again going to take a logic block, a splitter, and do it like that. And that will mean that most of the materials will be going in here, so that should be fine. But the other half of the materials are going in here, and that will be making those iron rods. Now that also means that we will have some output, so we are going to need one of those. Like that. And then we are going to have a lot more belts. Is this correctly? Yep. So we'll have those outputs going in there. And then we can... Hey, little robot, you're kind of in my way here. Kind of getting in the way. Let's make sure this points in the right direction. It's, again, once again, pretty hard to see sometimes. Let's just do it like this. And like that. And that will mean that we'll need to move this. Oh, that was once too many, apparently. There we go. So, should that work? I think it will. Assuming, of course, we actually hook these two up. So, let's do that. And then we will have actually some problem with ice, but I think that should go through the system. Let's find out what happens with that. We need to power all of this up and then hook it up to the system. So, let's find out if it works. So everything is in position. As you can see, we have a lot of resources incoming now. And the downside of that is actually that it will take a while for that entire belt to clear, because they were catching asteroids all the way while I was building. As you can see, the materials are actually going into the smelter, which is nice. We also have some plates being produced as we wanted it. So we should hopefully now see some wires coming out of the manufacturer as well. And we also have some plates going into this smelter. So now all we need to make sure is that we have some coal being passed on, but I think the coal is next up in line. So I actually placed down a coal facility for power on this line as well. I think well, we're not going to use all the coal for iron rods, so we might as well get ourselves some extra power. But as you can see, working like intended. The ice is actually passing through, so as I expected, the smelter itself cannot do anything with the ice, so it just passes it on to the warehouse. And as you can see, we now have rods incoming as well. It's actually interesting to see, because I didn't realize that the gold plates would actually be going in here as well. So let's see what happens with that. It actually goes right through the smelter, because it says I have no idea what to do with this, so I'll just pass it on. And the gold plates go right into the storage facility. So there you have it. We are now collecting lots and lots of asteroids all around the place. We have the base materials organized on this half of the platform. On the other half of the platform, we have the slightly more high-tech materials and wires being produced in mass. And of course, we can extend our platform. So if we want to use these base materials to, well, progress further down the tech tree, we can. We also have a nice little working space in the middle over here with some of the, I would say, more utility type of buildings. So we have our salvager here and our oxygen and water production, which we aren't really doing a lot with, but don't forget that this thing in the middle is making sure that we don't have to manually refill our oxygen. So basically we have now automated every single thing we've unlocked so far. In the next episodes, let's go find a planet, shall we, and let's do some mining. For now, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will catch you in the next one.